IELTS Speaking Part 1 is stressful. It's the beginning of the IELTS Speaking test. You're nervous and the examiner asks you up to about 12 questions about yourself, your work or school, your hometown and your hobbies. That's a lot of questions. But the good news is that there are many ways to prepare, so you give a perfect introduction. If you want to know how to succeed in Part 1, this video is for you. I will give you 10 tips for Part 1 to improve your score. By the end of this video, you will understand how to give high-scoring answers for Part 1 in IELTS Speaking. By the way, guys, if you're going to take your IELTS soon, check out my IELTS materials. There, I teach you everything you need to score high. I show you step by step how to give high-scoring answers. And of course, we do many practice tests together, so you will feel confident for your test. The link is in the description box. And now, let's get started. First, there is an easy way to improve your score in IELTS Speaking Part 1, guys. The key word is preparation. You must know what to expect in Part 1 if you want to do well. The examiner will ask you questions about yourself, so think about different ways you might answer before taking your test. For example, you will be asked your name. You can say, "My name is Tomohiro Matsunaga, but you can call me Hiro." You don't have to be fancy, just talk naturally, as if you are meeting someone new. Then you might get a question that is very general, such as "tell me about yourself" or "tell me about your work." For many test takers, these are hard questions because they don't know what to say. This happens if you don't prepare in advance. If you know that you will get such questions, you can think about how to answer them before taking the IELTS, and then you won't have to think about it during the test. Think of about 2 or 3 sentences. If you are talking about yourself, you can say where you live, your job or school, and another fact such as a hobby or the people you live with. It's great if you end with a goal for your English studies, such as this example. I live in a small town in China with my parents and a big cat named Fluffy. I love playing with Fluffy in my spare time. Now I'm a high school student. When I graduate, I want to go to a university in the United States and study veterinary medicine. The topics you will hear about are your friends and family, hometown, school or work, and hobbies. You may be asked about leisure activities, foods, and other common topics. If you like doing lots of things, think about the ones you want to focus on before you start the IELTS test. Do you need special vocabulary to talk about, for example, a sport you like? Look up the words you need so you're ready. The next point is super important, guys. If you don't do this, your score will go down like this. Many of the questions are really easy to answer in one word. For example, what do you like to do in your leisure time? That can be answered soccer or play soccer. However, that answer doesn't show off your language skills. If you answer like this, the examiner has no idea whether you know how to make a full sentence and whether you have a large vocabulary or not. So even when you have simple answers, make a sentence like, "I love playing soccer," or "In my spare time, I often play soccer." This way, you show the examiner that you know how to make a full sentence. If you can, try to paraphrase too. Have a look at this answer. Do you see I changed leisure time in the question to spare time? That's an easy way to show you have an awesome vocabulary. One time that people often forget the whole sentence is when giving your name. Don't just say Nellie West. Say, "My name is Nellie West." It's a little detail, but will really affect your final band score. Let's move on to tip number 3. Answer the question that the examiner asks. That sounds easy, but many test takers get nervous and talk about things that are related to the question but aren't really the answer. Here's an example. Let's say the examiner asks you, "Where do you work?" If you answer, "I'm a science major at Clark College," you did not answer the question because you didn't say where you work. That's bad because the examiner will think that you didn't understand the question, and so your score will go down. A better answer is, I don't have a job right now because I'm a science major at Clark College. Now you have answered the question by saying, I don't have a job right now. Then you go on to explain why, because you are a science major. So answer what you are asked before changing the topic. The next tip is crucial for getting a high IELTS speaking score. Guys, you must expand on your answers. In part 1, you should give 2 or 3 sentences. Let's again have a look at the soccer example. After I say, in my spare time, I often play soccer, I should add 1 or 2 more sentences. It doesn't really matter what they are, just make sure that they are grammatically correct and relate to the question. For example, a full response might be, in my spare time, I often play soccer. When I was in high school, I belonged to the soccer team and we won the state competition. Now I mostly play on weekends in the park with friends. You could also give a totally different response using the same topic. For instance, I love playing soccer. I only learned to play last year, but I hope that someday I can join a real team and compete in a tournament. Now, this is an important point, guys. The examiner is not judging your response based on the content. There is no right or wrong answer. Instead, you are scored on how well you use English to give an answer to a common question. So don't think too long about what to say. By the way, guys, if you find this video helpful, do me a favor and hit the like button. It means a lot to me. Also, comment down below whether you want to have more videos about IELTS speaking. I would love to know what you think. Now, let's have a look at 6 more tips for a perfect introduction in IELTS speaking. Let's check out one of my favorite tricks for IELTS speaking part 1. Many test takers don't know this, and that's really a pity, because it's such an easy way to score high. The examiner usually asks 2 or 3 questions about the same topic. And those questions are based on your answer. In other words, the examiner will use your answer to ask related questions. And that's amazing because this means that you can bring up topics that you can talk about well in English. It allows you to choose topics where you have a broad vocabulary, and this will make your score go up. For example, if you are going to school and have a part-time job, and if you don't have a lot of vocabulary about the tasks at your job, talk about school instead. Don't choose your weak topic, choose your strong topic. Tip number 6 is essential for successfully passing part 1. Be clear and natural. Use simple sentences that get the idea across. Don't try to use really complex sentence structures and vocabulary you don't know well. Let's have a look at this question again. Imagine if I answered that soccer question like this. According to my current preferences, though ultimately my interests are varied, I pursue the activity that most preoccupied my time in my youth, which is to say that I indulge in the pastime of soccer. This sounds weird, right? It's a confusing sentence and makes me sound silly. It's not clear and natural. Don't forget that part 1 is like a conversation, so you should use appropriate language. Now comes a mistake that you must absolutely avoid, guys. This is a big one. We're in the deep red zone here. Don't use memorized answers in part 1, and by the way, also not in the rest of the speaking test. This is something that really hurts your score. Now, there is a small part of the test where you can do that. It's okay to memorize how to say your name and what to say when giving the examiner your ID. I actually recommend memorizing these sentences because it's the start of the test, you are stressed out, and this gives you something to rely on and makes you more confident. But, and this is a big but, guys, don't use memorized answers for the rest of part 1. Why? Because the questions are often slightly different than you might expect. If you give a memorized answer, you might not address what is being asked, and the examiner will know that. They will realize that you have memorized answers. The result is that the examiner will think that you didn't understand the question and don't have the vocabulary to answer the question. For example, if the examiner asks you, what what you like to do in your leisure time, and you answer that you are interested in soccer, you don't know the next question. It could be, who do you play with? Or, how long have you played? Or it could be a completely different structure of question, like, tell me about your most recent soccer game. You can't know what the examiner is going to ask you. Therefore, it doesn't make any sense to memorize answers here. What you can and should do is practice talking about the topics so that the vocabulary is comfortable. That's totally fine, and you should absolutely do this because practice helps you give better answers and will make you confident. Now, let's have a look at a crucial point. Part 1 is the first IELTS speaking task, so you may be nervous and you may not always understand what the examiner asks you. That's not a problem if you know how to deal with this situation. The worst thing you can do is try to answer the question although you don't understand it. This can go terribly wrong because you may give an answer that is not related to the question. So what should you do if you don't understand the question? Ask the examiner for clarification. For example, you might say, "Excuse me, I didn't quite hear you. Would you please repeat the question?" Or, "Excuse me, what does something mean?" You will not lose points for asking what the examiner means. It's better to ask than to answer the wrong question because you didn't understand. Another point to remember about the introduction is that you will be asked to show your ID. Have it ready. You don't want to have to scramble in a purse at the testing center or unbutton a pocket that is hard to open. Have your passport or other ID ready to show and use full sentences like, "Yes, I have it right here. One moment, here it is." Having your ID ready eliminates embarrassing pauses, which makes you more confident for the whole section. Finally, I want to remind you to smile and make eye contact with the examiner. Imagine you're having a conversation. Show confidence and interest in the person you're talking to. I know you will be nervous, but if you smile, you will appear more comfortable. Plus, your voice will be easier to understand because you will be facing forward and opening your mouth more to form the different sounds. That's it. That's how to introduce yourself perfectly in IELTS speaking. I hope you guys liked this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you're notified when the next video comes out. Also, share this video with your friends so they can improve their IELTS speaking score too. See you in the next video!